Jiska here with another GGRecon interview. Today we're talking to Ben Goldhaber, the co-founder and CEO of GG, a one-stop shop for all things esports, with the goal to create a better way to discover, watch, and engage with the best events and content from across the global esports community. How's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. You know, Yiska, we've definitely chatted before. We've been on we've been on podcasts and shows before. So it's been a while though. So happy to chat. I don't think we've chatted since Juke GG really kicked off. So happy to chat and answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, and you guys are cooking something exciting up there. Have been following that for a while. So I think the followers that have been with you on your journey in esports, Juke GG makes sense from that point of view, right? Like, you were always the guy, like, esports calendar, where is it? Like, maintaining that type of thing. Then it's like, how can fans even discover esports streams? It's all over the place. Like, back in the day, it was even like on different streaming platforms. It's once again moving into that space a little bit. So it's everywhere, right? Do you think you're on a good way to solve these issues that you've seen, like, from 2011 and maybe perhaps before that?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. This is kind of like I don't want to say a life mission. That's probably too dramatic. But it's something that I've been thinking about and wanting to solve for actually more than a decade. So if you go back to even as early as 2009, a couple friends and myself, we actually built a website called Gamescast TV all the way back then. You know, this is really before League of Legends and StarCraft 2, and this is just as those games were coming out. And we built this website that aggregated esports streams from Livestream, Ustream, Justin TV, and Own3D. And it was a super simple platform. We just used the APIs of these services and, you know, pulled in and embedded the streams with the goal of being the place where you go to find esports streams. So it's no stretch to say that this has been something I actually built, like, version 0.01 of it back in 2009 and 2010. Then I obviously joined the Twitch founding team in 2011, which was amazing. And wanted to solve that problem at Twitch as well. Was never able to get the engineering and resources I wanted to build this type of product actually internally within Twitch. But yeah, I don't think there's anyone else on the planet who has put more time and more thought into this specific issue of discovery in esports.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. Now, the underlying premise, of course, is that you must believe that there are people out there that aren't just like one game followers, right? Is this more? Do you see Juke more as like a creator of maybe someone finds it on Google who's interested in esports and gets into this new, or is it more to sort of like get the fan that's already interested in this one esport, then also to join in on the next one and the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely both. Like, we'd love to expand the whole, like, we'd love Juke to be part of actually growing esports and make it easier for new people to get into esports in the first place. But I think one thing that's really important for us, obviously, is creating a sense of community on the platform. So, you know, I think a huge part of what the problem that we're solving is discovery. You know, it's pretty difficult to know what's happening every single week across many major games, but we also want to build a deeper sense of community for esports fans like myself, like you, Yiska, who maybe follow multiple games. And, you know, not only do you want to know when your favorite teams are playing and the big storylines, what to watch each weekend, you want easier access to the brackets and scores, but we want you to also feel like Juke is your home as an esports fan. It's where you're going to comment and commune with other like-minded fans. So this is actually a huge part of our product development that's going to be happening over the next 6 to 12 months. We're going to be focusing much more on these kind of engagement and social functionalities. But today, absolutely, yes, we want to help new fans get into this space. We want to be the place where you go if you're a hardcore fan like myself and follow multiple games. But I mean, you know, to address your question directly, yes, I think Juke was founded on the fundamental belief that there are people like me out there and people like you out there that want to follow multiple games. I can't tell you how many times throughout my decade plus in esports, people I've talked to say, no, that doesn't exist. Nobody's like that. A CSGO fan only watches CSGO. Don't even try to get them to watch Dota. But I truly believe that this is an audience worth serving, and it's time is on our side. There's only going to be more and more and more people who follow multiple games in the future. And when I talk to esports fans, the average person, like the median, follows 2 to 3 games closely, but will casually watch 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 other games, like if there's something happening and they happen to find the stream. So I know that's a little bit of anecdotal evidence because it's people that I'm talking to, it's our users, but that is the absolute median use case that I'm seeing when I talk to.
Yeah. And I think it's also represented just like if we look at the year-long calendar, which, by the way, therefore your esports calendar makes sense and has been put to great use at GGRecon as well. But like, because we have these high points in the general esports community, there's a CSGO major going on, there's TI, then there's Worlds, now there's Overwatch League finals. Like, that there are continuous high points, and if you were just a fan of esports, you could be watching the greatest entertainment basically all year, right? Now, you mentioned that you want to build this community, and it's interesting that you then chose an opportunity for people to put their money where their mouth is and to invest in you guys. And you guys had this crowd equity fundraising campaign, and as far as I could tell, it's going really well. Probably, is it past your expectations?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely way past our expectations. Our goal was to raise a couple $100,000 through crowd equity, but we gave ourselves 6 months to do that. The fact that we've gotten over 500,000 just as of yesterday, we just hit the 500K mark in about 3 weeks. Absolutely smashed our expectations. We're super excited.
Do you have any idea who these people are that are so convinced of your product?
Yeah, I mean, a good portion of them are Juked users or people who know who Chris and I are. I mean, we've been around in the ecosystem for a very long time, but a good amount are just average investors who want to own a piece of esports. So that's a big part of the 500K has been maybe people who aren't even endemic to esports. I think I'll apologize in advance for tooting my own horn, but like new esports platform founded by someone who was on the Twitch founding team is a pretty compelling like story to your average investor as well.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. It's been an interesting topic in terms of like, I'm sure you guys also had to at some point make that conscious decision, is what actually qualifies as esports content. Have you found like a solid definition? What is esports for Juked?
That's a great question. I don't think I have like a super concise answer for you because we actually have put some things like Twitch rivals on Juked. Even though it can have an influencer spin to it, even though it's a little bit more casual, if it's organized competition with big prize money, with tens of or if not hundreds of thousands of people watching, even if it's not as hardcore as a CS:GO major, I think it still fits our platform. It still fits our ethos. It still fits what we're trying to do. Now, one thing I will say is when we look at other platforms, I don't need to name too many names. When we look at other media companies out there in esports, they seem to conflate any Twitch streaming drama with esports. And that is something we are never going to do. Take my words and I guess use them against me in the future if we ever decide to change this, because I don't want to be TMZ for Twitch streamers.
Right.
So I guess that's one thing that we've very purposely said we're not going to do that. And, we're very much more focused on the actual competition and the industry and things like that.
Right. Yeah. I think the tournament cutoff is a solid one. I think there's some gray line where, for instance, like if I'm watching like a great player do drills in AimLab or whatever, like that theoretically has something to do with esports competition, right? But it's then therefore very hard to sort of automatically discern what this player is doing at that point, right? Have you guys thought about that in some way?
Yeah, I mean, esports pro player streams, especially if it's them actually scrimming or actually practicing, I think it makes sense. I think we could build a database of players and pull in their streams and things like that. I think it would be very difficult, obviously, because a lot of the time it's not so hardcore. A lot of the time they're playing other games other than their main game. So it would be doable, though. Maybe something we'll tackle at a later date.
Right. Now, esports has been in a kind of interesting situation in 2020. Of course, like esports is the vehicle of esports, also brings positives with it. How have you guys received this, and how do you think the industry at large has used this advantage?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, esports, when you compare esports to traditional sports, there was a period where traditional sports literally screeched to a halt and there was nothing happening due to COVID for many months. Um, Esports was able to adapt and go online, especially the big publisher run leagues, LCS, LEC, LCK, Overwatch League, Call of Duty League. Those were the types of events that were able to really seamlessly, they had enough resources to build that online broadcast very quickly. ESL started doing all of their Counter-Strike stuff online. But I think that there's this incorrect perception, in my opinion, that like COVID is like the best thing ever to happen to esports. Certain communities have been hit extremely hard and weren't able to adapt. We love the Smash Brothers community, and over the last 6 months, I think there have been like maybe 3 interesting tournaments the entire time. And before that, it was every 2 weeks there was a huge, awesome major with huge, like amazing storylines. Some new champion unseating some. It was I was loving Ultimate before this, and now it's like completely dried up. So I think in some communities it's been pretty much fine. Like Counter-Strike, you've seen ESL and DreamHack and Blast all doing great online content, but I mean, then look at Dota. I mean, there really hasn't been that much going on in Dota. There haven't been any majors. There haven't been any minors. So it's not as clear cut. You can't. I don't think it's correct to say that esports has benefited from COVID, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. There's also always the argument that crowds are sort of part of the entertainment, right? It's the roaring crowds that not only grab the player and make them do something with it, but it grabs the broadcaster and then also the audience at home, right? Do you think that is like another growth factor that we're missing here when we're talking about COVID growth?
I mean, 100%. Players playing from their bedroom is not the same as in front of 20, 30, 40,000 roaring fans. Like, it's just not even comparable.
Right. Now, we got investment backing in esports. We got great players and staff, and we got smart tech companies increasingly coming in too. Where's the bottleneck then in terms of esports growth?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is something that anyone would disagree with. I think there's a real lack for storylines being told in esports about the players, about I mean, it's really about the players for the most part. Like, it's pretty rare that you see amazing content embedded into these esports tournaments and broadcasts that are telling these stories that will bring in people from the outside. I mean, you see something like this happen with, obviously, TI does really great player background stories, and obviously, like the better tournaments, like the better CS:GO majors will do it from time to time. But I think if you're coming from just putting yourselves in the shoes of someone who doesn't necessarily play Counter-Strike, how are you going to get them emotionally invested? How are you going to get them to care? It's going to be telling those storylines, and there are tens of hundreds of millions of people who play these esports games out there. So there's obviously still room to grow, even with just the people who do play these games. But if you look at traditional sports, like, people don't play football in, I guess, American football in the U.S. But it's the most popular sport when it comes down to the viewership numbers. So I think that there's a lot of work that we could be doing as an industry that's not being done right now to tell better storylines about the players and about the teams. Yeah, and just I think bringing in people from an outside perspective. Like, again, that's one of our goals with Juked. You have to be pretty hardcore to follow what's happening. You have to follow hundreds of people on social media. You have to be in Discord servers. You have to subscribe to different subreddits. And even then, you're probably still going to have to go to several different sources just to know what channel the stream is happening on or how to find the brackets. And I think this high barrier to entry is definitely a drag on the growth of esports.
Right. That makes sense. Now, you talk about the storylines, and that's an interesting one because recently there has been this development where individuals will provide their own commentary and their own view of the action, be it from a humorous point of view or from a highly analytical point of view, possibly involving like players that aren't in this match but in the same competition talking about it. How have you received this companion stream sort of influx?
Yeah, I think I'll give actually a bunch of credit to Marcus DJ Wheat. I think I don't want to toot our own horns again too much, but I have to be honest about it. It was actually way back at Twitch, and I want to say maybe 2014 or something like that, when we implemented this new idea of co-streaming, where it was like E3 was happening, Twitch, we were doing our own broadcast of everything at E3. We said, anyone, you can just capture our stream and do your own commentary over E3 broadcast. And it took off. Like ever since then, co-streaming has grown every single year. More events allow it. From E3, the E3s and the Gamescoms of the world to all kinds of press announcements and new game releases to now esports. Some esports are officially sanctioning and allowing co-streaming. So I think it's awesome. I think it's a great way to engage with your audience if you're a streamer and you care deeply about something. If you're an esports person or if you're just a gaming person. So I love the idea of co-streaming. When it comes to the Juked perspective, we haven't really built any product around this, but it's something that both Chris and I know pretty well, and I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, like the interesting part, of course, all of this is, I think the technology is probably not a huge issue to figure out how to co-stream. It seems to be limited either by business or by law in terms of like trying to protect your IP.
Yeah.
Did you have any concerns with that at Twitch at all?
Well, we at Twitch were producing this E3 broadcast, so we didn't care. We said just screen capture it. By the way, the technology hasn't evolved. The way that you co-stream an event is you just screen capture on OBS or XSplit. So we didn't care because Twitch is not a media company. Like we were doing that just because we wanted more eyeballs on Twitch. So anything like that we could do to add more eyeballs to Twitch, we didn't care. I think like just because co-streaming has grown so much, I've seen a lot more people being okay and open to it. The most important thing is that you're still showing the sponsors and you're still showing the ads and things like that. Obviously there is a concern there, but I think it's also just such a great way of gaining more viewership and more exposure for your tournaments. Every single time that you're seeing these huge events now, not every single time, but whenever they have co-streaming, it's adding 20, 30, 40% more viewership to those events than you would see otherwise. So it's kind of undeniably an amazing opportunity to get more eyeballs, which is what most people care about in the end.
Yeah, and it's probably hard to tell certain leagues, especially franchise leagues, that it's likely to be growing the pie rather than like stealing some of it, right? But in some leagues, streamers couldn't really just co-stream. What they would have to do is they would have to get some technology going to sync up the stream so the viewers can watch two at once. Maybe not even watch the video feed of the streamer, but just catch the video feed. Now, I think you were around in Warcraft 3, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. I'm pretty old school, but Warcraft 3 was not my game in particular. So, yeah.
Do you remember Walk TV?
No, honestly.
So basically, Walk TV, just an elevator explanation, was some genius came up with the ability to connect to a replay file that was constantly broadcasted in the client. Therefore, players could go into that replay, and then he also added the functionality to sync that to Winamp back in the day, right? So in that regard, I really feel like this is too much of a similarity. What kind of hoops we got to jump through for this not to be like, basically we're on the edge of just figuring something out. Do you think, like, what ways could there be to make it so leagues either understand that there's additional value there, or to make it so that sponsors also like are satisfied with that position? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I mean, yeah, there could be a technology solution where you actually, instead of, and not there could be, there are already existing technology solutions. When you have a big esports tournament and you have many different language streams, usually what's happening is those foreign language streams are getting the clean feed
Right.
of the tournament, so that everything but the commentary, and doing their own commentary. And that's actually like the legit way to do it. So clearly this could be done on a larger scale. The technology exists. So someone could just build that kind of clean feed functionality and let people use it in a more official way. It sounds like a good product idea.
Yeah.
maybe we'll have to explore it one day if no one else does.
Are you a fan of like on-map advertisements that, for instance, CS:GO has tried? Do you think could be a solution?
I mean, esports needs monetization in any way that we can get it. So as long as you're not hurting the broadcast experience, I think it's fine.
Right. Okay. So now we're going wide into the future. We're probably grandparents by then, and we gotta think how the youth will be consuming esports, or maybe us as well, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of companies, such as, for instance, Minecraft, I would say, Roblox, especially Fortnite, have been implementing these metaversial ideas, just like trying to like get several media sources into their engine in some ways. For instance, for Fortnite, you have like the concerts in there, and then you have like the map where you can chill out, and the idea being like eventually it's going to be a super sophisticated Second Life, possibly in VR. Could you see, like, maybe wide into the future, we go into the juked cinema and just all watch esports perfectly synced through our VR goggles?
That sounds great. It's VR. I feel like we've been saying this for years, but I feel like it's just on the cusp of becoming more viable. Facebook just is releasing their new VR goggles it's only $300, and it's like way faster and way better than the previous ones. So I think as soon as they're comfortable enough to wear, and they don't require crazy amounts of wires, and they're cheap enough, I really do believe in VR. I mean, I played Half-Life Alyx.
Right.
Game was amazing. That game was so good. I don't know if I can swear on this show, but I really wanted to swear. It's an incredible game. So I think like VR will be big eventually.
Right.
Maybe the technology needs to get even better, where instead of wearing a headset, it's just like glasses or something. Maybe it does need to get to that point where it's so easy to wear that it's like you don't even notice you're wearing it. But I think eventually we will get there. I guarantee it.
Right.
I think that kind of concept of just doing more and more and more things in VR, whether that's watching an esports tournament, a movie with your friends, or whatever else, I think it's going to happen.
Do you think once we get into this VR space where it's like, okay, now everyone's actually competing in like unreal scenarios, do you think there could be then the marriage of athleticism and esports in some way, because people need to do that in some corporal way?
I mean, I don't see why not. I don't see why that couldn't and eventually be pretty cool and interesting and have high skill ceiling. And I mean, we do have like, I forget what it's called, like AVR league or whatever. They like there is an esports league already happening for VR games, shooters, where you're physically looking around a corner. So I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work.
Yeah. And it's always like with these technologies, it reminds me of the first time like watching Avatar, the movie, where it's like you were introduced to 3D movies. And I feel like to this day we still haven't settled the debate if 3D is a gimmick or a feature. Where do you fall on that for VR? Do you think that's definitively like the way we're going to play, or is there always going to be a screen in front of us?
I don't think it's definitively going to just take over, but I think definitively it will become huge.
Right.
And many, many, many people will do it, and many, many, many people will spend more time in VR than in real life eventually. But I don't know if it's going to be like, the majority of the at least first world countries are in VR. No, I can't predict that far into the future. It's a little bit creepy to
Of
think
course.
about that.
Yeah.
I don't love the idea.
Yeah.
But
I think the exciting thing always about esports was the ability to share a hobby with whoever really is on the planet and remotely speaks the same language. Doesn't even really have to be that sophisticated, right? Do you think the future of esports is global?
I mean, hasn't esports always been global, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things I fell in love with very early when I started following all these different esports games was, you know, back in 2008, 2009, 2010, and esports was this new boom of esports was really just beginning. I became it personally, just my stories. I became infatuated with following every single tournament that was happening, regardless if I played the game. I've never played Heroes of New Earth in my life, but I
Right.
was like, wow, there's 12,000 viewers watching this Heroes of New Earth stream. This is insane. And it got me so excited because as a gamer, like gaming and esports wasn't cool yet, but it felt like we were on the cusp of this like revolution. And it didn't matter that I didn't play Heroes of New Earth, and it didn't matter that it was probably like in Singapore or in Germany or something. But I still fell in love with it and followed it religiously. So I think it's always been international.
Sweet. All right, then we thank you for being part of growing this gigantic pie that, like, where the potential only sky's the limit, really, with the leverage that we will hopefully soon have. Anything you'd like to say at the end?
No, I think you teed me up perfectly. That is our goal, man. Like honestly, our vision for Juked is to be the community hub for esports, and we want to lower the barrier to entry to enjoying esports and becoming a fan in the first place. So our goal really truly is to grow this thing. If that sounds like a mission that you can get behind, please come check out juke.gg. Register for an account. We'd really appreciate it if you did that. We got a great newsletter, and you get some extra features on the site that customize your experience, and we're doing a lot more there in the future. Check out our Republic crowdfunding campaign. It's republic.co/juked. If you're interested in owning a piece of our company or owning a piece of esports, please check that out as well. But no, thank you so much, Yiska. I had a great time.
Sweet. Thank you, Ben.
All right.